Hi everybody, welcome to Gen Con. Again, we are doing another interview today, an amazing one with Andie Margolskee of
MargoMods Games.
MargoMods Games. Gosh, I cannot get all that right in the beginning of these interviews. So we're going to talk first about something really big that just happened, which is the Kickstarter of her new product, Lorelahc Manor.
It's a murder mystery at a masquerade. It takes about 5 sessions. It has a bonus prologue one-shot in a library, which is sort of a hybrid escape room murder mystery with a time travel twist. I'm happy to tell you anything and everything about it.
So when it was kickstarted, one of the things that I just discovered, I think is very interesting, is it was completely written before the Kickstarter launched, which means it will be a very quick delivery once a Kickstarter closes. When does the Kickstarter close?
So the Kickstarter closes August 27th. We're about 4 or 5 days now. Everything's a blur because I'm at Gen Con, into the Kickstarter campaign. We've got over 100 backers. It's going great. 30 days total. The digital copy will be available the moment the campaign concludes, and physical books will be shipped out sometime in October is what I'm shooting for. Hopefully earlier.
Nice. That's a pretty rare thing, but I think it's a beautiful thing when you it's already been funded, by the way. It funded very quickly, which means that not only did it get funded, and it was written, and we're seeing a print proof. We know it's coming, and we know it's coming soon, which is really nice. Do you want to talk about some of the really interesting details you put in that you think GMs might find unexpected? It's a
Absolutely.
mystery, of course.
So I am of the belief that murder mysteries sort of live and die by their murder weapons and the available suspects. So
Clue, done well.
Absolutely. So we have a huge cast of over 20 fully illustrated NPCs that come with cheat sheets so that your players and you can keep track of who everybody is. And each NPC has their own secret that they want to hide from people. So everybody is a little bit shifty. Everybody has a reason you might want to zone of truth them. And so it's very difficult, I want to say impossible, to absolutely short circuit the murder mystery in a way that you might expect from a D&D game. It supports spellcasting up to level 8. So, people can speak with dead, that doesn't break it. Zone of truth, that doesn't break it. Right. Find where the murderer is, that doesn't break it. They're still moving around, moving pieces. It's like a really rich cast full of characters with different things going on. Some of their secrets are directly tied to the overall murder mystery, and some of them are just interesting tidbits that launch you into understanding that character a bit more and understanding they are somebody who is here because they absolutely hate the victim. He could have done it, right? But that's too easy, or is it? You have to find out, right? The first thing that character is doing when you meet him is grumbling about how much of a jerk this professor is for not showing up to his own party because he's late. And it's a murder mystery, so he's dead.
So with any mystery, there has to be kind of a depth of lore that some adventures don't have to have. So where was your well of inspiration for your lore?
So I start with specific ideas for something that might make something interesting. So I'm obsessed with time travel in a lot of different ways. And time travel is a really tricky thing to write around. And so you start sort of with one central question, which is, I want there to be a time travel aspect. Why would somebody die because they were trying to time travel? And spoilers for anybody who wants to be a player in this campaign, maybe mute me for the next 30 seconds. But the first guy is killed because he wants to travel back in time to save his first wife from a tragic death. And the murderer is his son by his second wife, because if he succeeded in time traveling to save his first wife, his son would never be born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
that's pretty dark, too.
It is. Yeah. And so he's sort of like this morose, very sort of sad, in some ways very anxious young goblin kid who, in a classic, almost sitcom-y way, if he had just talked to his dad, none of this would have happened, but he wanted to show up and be recognized and have everything work without doing any of the work, right? And so the tragedy is really about missed opportunities and being afraid to talk to people. And so he is a really tragic character, being taken advantage of by an archfey that's behind the whole mystery. And so you can find out why. His name is Glurm. He's this adorable little goblin guy. We can zoom in on Glurm. Just like a sad little guy. He, was taken advantage of by this archfey who is actually trying to break out somebody that she imprisoned beneath the manor. So there are sort of like complicated, tangled webs of interconnected people. So I think a lot of the world building just comes from why would people do this, what's going on in their lives, and what makes them interesting. What is their lived experience? What are they feeling? And why would they care about the other people in this manner?
I also think in the current D&D zeitgeist, last year and the year before was heists.
Yeah.
They were everywhere. And this year, you're on the very beginning of murder mysteries are becoming the new zeitgeist, like de rigueur of the industry right now.
I kind of feel that way, and everybody loves a good masquerade, which is what the latter half of this campaign is in, because masquerades are filled with people who want to get stuff done, do sneaky stuff, and have reasons to hide behind a mask. So it's perfect for a murder mystery.
So you say it's for up to level 8. Is there a floor that people need to be able to realistically be able to play through it? Like, so, could a first level group be able to play it, or would it be like they wouldn't really have the tools in place?
So nothing is gated behind having specific skills available to you. You could solve it entirely just by talking to people and figuring it out yourself, or not even talking to people and just exploring the area and finding what's there. You could play it for level 1. I suggest level 3. But it wouldn't take very much to make it a very approachable for level 1 characters.
And this is your first Kickstarter, correct?
This is my first Kickstarter project, which is why I wanted to have the book done before even launching the Kickstarter.
So what was the experience of not only creating the product, but planning out that you're going to do it as a Kickstarter?
Well, I sign up for big projects sort of on the regular, which is why I have a PhD in oceanography. So the process was thinking, okay, I started on DMsGuild. I wrote some expansions for official Wizards of the Coast modules, Summon the Citadel and Forge of Fury. They were received well. There was the OGL debacle, so I was starting to feel constrained by being tied to Wizards of the Coast IP, so I wanted to strike out on my own. And the way that a lot of people do that is through Kickstarter. So I just, one step at a time, figured out what I had to do. Put up a pre-launch page as soon as I was ready, and started collecting pre-launch followers, talking about the murder mystery, and running playtests for people.
Any new mechanics introduced?
So I use a mechanic that is inspired by Flea Mortal's minions. They have this wonderful mechanic where minions die when they take any amount of damage from a failed saving throw or from damage. And I use sort of a version of minions to have really punchy, sort of inky doppelgangers that you can kill in one hit, that are very dangerous because they can petrify you if they hit you twice. So in this like slowly, magically, encased, solidifying ink, your allies can scrape it off, or you can do it yourself if you spend your action. So
what would you consider like a lethality level of it? Is it a pretty lethal adventure, or is it?
I would say it's not extremely lethal. I would say that you could run it that way. It would be very easy to do it. All you would have to do is encourage your party to split off, to be cornered by these.
You don't have to encourage them; they do that anyway.
Well, and it's a murder mystery, and they want to talk to everybody, so it does kind of happen. You could finagle it so that it's very dangerous. It wouldn't take much, but it's not what I designed it for. I wanted to design it in a way where there are no dead ends. You can always progress. Even if you don't find that clue, there are 3 other clues pointing to the same thing, right?
In the inverse, could you soften it to make it almost like a cozy game version of a D&D murder mystery?
I think you could absolutely do that. I mean, there's no reason, for instance, to have any combat. You don't need combat to reveal the murder, right? You just have to confront them with their crimes, and they could break down crying or say like, yeah, I did it, whatever, and skip sort of the like complicated combat scenes, or just describe the violence in very sort of like cushy action sequence anime ways, right?
Do you see this as the beginning of a series or a collection, or is this a one-off for you?
I would absolutely love to expand this area called the Umbral Glade, where the Archfey Queen, her name is the Casticide Queen, is from. And I would love to expand this world more. I love writing murder mysteries. I love writing mysteries in general. So yeah, if this did incredibly well, I would be happy to write another book attached to this, or not. I'm also writing a lot of Candela Obscura content with a couple of other friends. We have another publishing company called Three Quills Publishing. We're writing Candela Obscura one-shots that are going to be an anthology series with sort of a mystery tying each of them together. So I'm up to a lot of things.
Are you going beyond those two games, or is that kind of where you're limiting yourself on purpose to maintain focus or anything, or are you really looking at other places?
So I think that playing and reading and writing for other games makes all of your writing better. So I started with 5e. It's not the only thing I'm writing for now. 5e and Candela aren't the only things I'll ever write for. I have desires to write for Daggerheart when that's ready. That's more high fantasy, more sort of 5e, but very like action-focused cinematic. And so I think it'll be really fun to bring some of my like big world-building system ideas to something like Daggerheart.
Is fantasy your favorite genre, or are there other genres you have interest in also?
I mean, I love fantasy, but Candela Obscura is not fantasy, really.
Yeah, it's a cousin of.
It's a cousin of, yeah. So I am attached to fantasy. I do also love science fiction. I haven't done the work yet to write something that is more sci-fi, but advanced enough science is essentially magic, so it's not all that different.
How did you get into games in general?
Oh boy, well, I've been playing games since I guess I could walk. I don't know. I remember being a kid playing Doom on like a DOS machine in my uncle's living room. And I was playing all the games like Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale before I even knew that they were D&D. So D&D has been very much in the DNA of the games that I've really gravitated towards, so much longer than I knew that they would be. More recently, I got into D&D from like Dimension 20 and Balance from the Adventure Zone and all of these actual plays.
Do you prefer tabletop to computer games, or you just consider them two different things?
Computer games are ruined for me now. They're absolutely ruined.
Because of real people?
I mean, they don't hold my attention anymore. You can't do any of the sort of elegant collaborative storytelling that you can do with tabletop games. You can't contribute in the video game's narrative in the same way that you can at the table.
Yeah, you can't.
You just can't.
There's the missing narrative of actual thought of people that it can't replicate, at least not yet. And when you write, are you a prolific writer, or are you a kind of a paced, more cautious writer in the amount and quality when you're going through? I know the quality's good now, but a lot of people, they write really badly first, and then they do 18 drafts to get to excellence.
So I was talking to a friend recently. My writing process feels like, bursts of good ideas where, if you know the scene from Spider-Man where he's like holding two trains together with the right. Slimy tendrils, I'm pulling the trains together and then tying it, and you look back and it's like, oh, okay, now we have a train, right? And I just do that car by car, focusing really narrowly on each piece and making sure that it can fit in the whole.
It sounds dangerous.
It feels dangerous because sometimes I don't get enough sleep, or I forget to eat or whatever. I get consumed by the writing when I am on the right track.
I mean, being in a flow, if it's not consuming you, you may not really be in a flow.
True.
I mean, that's sort of the creative. It's the bane of creatives.
Yeah. So I started writing adventures maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I'm on my fourth one. So I would say that's prolific while I'm also doing a day job as a postdoctoral oceanographer.
Yeah, that's very recent though. I mean, really to go from 2 years ago writing and doing work with Wizards and then doing your own Kickstarter within the span of 2 years, it's not only prolific, it's determined.
I am incredibly stubborn. Also, just to clarify, I didn't work with Wizards. I just used official modules and built expansions onto them, and published those on the DMsGuild. But yeah, I mean, when I decide I want to do something, I just do it, until it's good.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
It will make you. I think that is one of that may be the most important key to success is someone who is resourceful enough to figure out how to just get it done when there's no other help.
You know, the surprising thing was, when I first started getting into TTRPG writing, I didn't realize how many other pieces I would have to learn. Because at this point, you know, I had to do graphic design, both for the book and for the Kickstarter page. I had to do layout for everything.
They love that.
I mean, I love it too at this point. I just didn't know that was what was going to happen. And now it's all I want to do. So
you did your own design?
Yeah, I did the layout, I did the graphic design. I didn't make any of the illustrations. That's all Chelsea Crane, who's Silver Steampunk.
All of it's Chelsea Crane?
So all of the art is Chelsea Crane.
Wow.
She's
One
incredible.
Artist.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I started this company as a way to try to make sure that artists get paid, because I saw sort of the burgeoning Gen AI stuff, and I had some funds from my day job and wanted to make sure that I could at least get a talented artist that I know out of a challenging, you know, situation and like make art, right?
Yeah.
Because capitalism sucks and I want to make it better, and you know, I'll do my small part. And hopefully I make some money on this book. We'll see. Maybe.
Well, it kickstarted.
It
backed. And it's got weeks to go.
It does.
So there's still a chance it will do pretty well.
I think it's already doing really well. I'm happy with how it's doing. I didn't go into it with the intent of like making a lot of money, right? I just wanted to make something that I love and share it with people. And if we make money on the back end, that would be incredible. And if we don't, I still feel like it's a success.
How well do you feel you know mechanics?
Pretty well. I'm not even sure the scale of that question.
I'll let you scale it how you feel like you want to scale it.
So I think that the way that my brain works is I focus really deeply on one part of the problem, figure that out, think about it really hard, and then move on to the next piece. When I was running games at the very start, I was really focused on encounter design and monster design and action economy, thinking about, you know, what makes it fun to be a player in a cinematic combat. You know, making sure people have options, making sure that you're not just closing doors on people. And, you know, if you have I'm going to plug Flea Mortals again because I think they did a great job. MCDM is fantastic. Yep. You know, tweaking legendary resistances so that there's still a benefit that you get when they spend a legendary resistance. It does damage to them, it dazes them, it does something else, so that you're always progressing towards a goal. I live and die by that kind of mechanical system. I want to make sure that people don't feel like their turn was wasted, or it would have been better that they're not even there.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the reason that I asked it was you had given me a couple of clues in the conversation that I thought were interesting. One of them was MCDM. Most people who follow MCDM are into mechanics.
Sure.
Another thing was you had set a ceiling of level 8, which said you were understood there were some spells above that or capabilities above that would risk the usefulness of it, or people could break it.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering how you felt about it's very obvious you know mechanics.
Sure.
I was wondering how comfortable you were with talking about your mechanics and your understanding of it. But I wasn't questioning whether you understood mechanics.
I didn't think you were. So when you're running a murder mystery, so level 8 is the cutoff because of Raised Dead. And, you know, there are a lot of ways that you could sort of go about constructing a murder mystery to account for Raised Dead, but this manor is very remote, and so they don't have somebody on hand that could cast that spell, and PCs that are level 7 aren't going to be able to cast it themselves.
Yeah.
And by doing things like, this is morbid, but by doing things like removing the head of the Duke, you know, you can't raise them until you have like very high level magic.
Yeah.
And it's also challenging, obviously, to cast Speak with Dead because the head's not there. So like one of the things that happens is as you're walking through the masquerade, if you haven't gone upstairs to find the body, you run into the Duke as a ghost, but his ghost is also headless because his body is headless up there. And so if it like wanders into you, it sort of accidentally possesses you, but it's looking for its head. And the head is like sitting in a crypt somewhere nearby. Right. So sort of the tagline is like, help the Duke's ghost find his head and his killer. It's a little cute, but yeah, there are just a lot of different considerations to make when you're writing a mystery, and especially a murder mystery.
Do you GM still?
I do.
And
I do.
Do you stream or do you just do it local?
So I don't usually stream. I do a lot of sort of private playtesting because I want to make sure that people have the chance to give honest feedback in the moment and after the fact, and so that they're thinking about the game and not, the camera. But I would love to run more games on streams. I think it's really fun when I've done it, and I probably will in the future.
How do you see yourself as a GM or a DM?
I see myself as someone who is sort of like equally goofy and serious. I love running NPCs that are a little bit silly, but that have really sort of like deep motives, right? So it's like, yeah, they have a goofy voice, but actually, they want to like save their husband from, these hobgoblins that capture them or whatever, Yeah, as a GM, I think that I am somebody who wants to give people toys to play with. And often for me, those are the characters. Sometimes they're the encounters. And I just really want people to like be laughing and having a good time at the table until I make them cry.
Did you have any inspiration going in on doing a murder mystery that came to mind?
I love the movies Clue and Knives Out, both 1 and 2.
Knives Out, yeah.
Yeah.
Clue, okay.
Well, so tell me more.
It's nostalgic for sure.
I mean, it's nostalgic, but it's also... So one of the things that Clue does really well, and it's very campy, obviously, but each of the different characters have a very particular archetype, yeah. And they fit together really well. And the construction of the mystery is really clean, and the solution of it is playful, right? Yeah. The different solutions and having him like run around and recreate the murder mystery. It's very playful in a way that a lot of D&D games can be playful.
Yeah.
So I have a soft spot in my heart for Clue. But yes, Knives Out and Knives Out 2 are sort of the intricate murder mysteries that I really love. I would have to say, one of my biggest sources of inspiration for this kind of adventure, where there's like a lurking threat in the background and a series of almost episodes tied together by that narrative thread, are shows like Doctor Who, where each season there's a big bad where you realize in retrospect everything is about them. Yeah. And in this one, it's the Archfey in the background, where it's like, oh, that box that you found in the beginning of the murder mystery is a thing that holds her lover's voice trapped inside, And you don't know why that's relevant until you do.
Spoiler alert.
I already spoiler alerted for the players and hope
You did.
Oh well. You'll find it out once you find the box anyways.
Have you started writing the next thing?
I have. So my next campaign for 5e is something I'm calling in-house the Isle of the Wizard Green. This is an entry that I put into Indestructible Boys Game Jam. I play Silver, and I'm expanding it now into a full-on campaign. It is about a wizard who is using sort of extraplanar ooze trapped in a magic circle to grow massive crops and barn animals and so on. And as an environmental science and oceanographer and climate scientist, I'm really inspired by things like acid rain, blooming phytoplankton. And so we have this island surrounded by this glowing, acidic, giant ooze that's the byproduct of this wizard's experiments. And so the entire campaign is about all of the knock-on effects of what happens when you collapse a region's fisheries, and people are doing this science in a way that's really hard to get to, because you can't just take a boat through this living acidic ooze on the water. And so you start by bringing a food shipment to a nearby town who is taken over by Dockmaster Marbo Three Knox, who he's my kind of sort of delightfully stupid character. He's got a tavern that he calls the Bass Knuckle Tavern because he's got a pair of petrified fish that he uses as bass knuckles. So this one's sort of like delightfully goofy, a little bit horrifying sometimes, but in a way that I hope will make people laugh and really feel like their characters are more at risk. So that one's going to be a lot more dangerous than this murder mystery campaign. But there's always going to be a mystery. There's always going to be people with ulterior motives doing stuff because they need to get stuff done. Yeah.
Very nice. So where do they go if they want to kickstart it and if they want to find you?
So if you want to kickstart this adventure, it's Murders at Lorelahc Manor. It's on Kickstarter right now. We have digital tiers for the PDF, for the maps, a Roll20 module, fully integrated, and a hardcover and softcover copy. So go to Kickstarter, look for Murders at Lorelahc Manor, and you'll find it. I'm Andie Margolskee. I'm MargoMods Games everywhere online, Threads, Blue Sky, everywhere but Twitter, because I couldn't deal with the day-to-day transphobia in my feed constantly as a trans creator. So I'm not on Twitter, I'm on everything else.
Do you have an active Discord community?
I don't, but I've been considering making one. So follow me on social media and maybe you'll find out about a Discord server sometime in the future.
Okay. Great. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited about this. I think anybody into murder mysteries, cozy to super lethal games in 5e, this is a perfect fit.
Yeah, thank you for
joining us. It was nice to talk to you. Thanks,
Nice
Andie.
talking to you too. Thank you.